All right, well, it's that time, so welcome to all in attendance. We'll call this meeting to order. The first being the invocation. Reverend Favors, will you bring the invocation today?
Yes. Let's pray. Father, we thank you for the God that you are. We celebrate a resurrection and a resurrected Christ and one who comes with all power. Bless, dear God, this work that you've given to share in the work of service, and bless all that is done for the betterment of this county. In the name of Jesus, our Christ, our prayer. Amen.
Amen. And pledge the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First item of business is some approvals. The first being of today's agenda. I'll need a motion for an addition under information and announcements for an update from Sarah Adams with the Archway partnership, as well as 15 and 16 for budget amendment grants and consideration to purchase 2 transit vans. Is there a motion to add those items? Motion made by Vice Chairman Wilson.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Favors. All in favor? Next is a set of minutes from the regular session Tuesday, April 15th at 6:30. Give you a second to review those, and then entertain a motion.
So move approval of minutes.
Motion made by Commissioner Favors.
Second.
Seconded by Vice Chairman Wilson. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, we'll move on to our information announcements. The first being an update from Sarah Adams with our Archway partnership.
Good morning, and thank y'all for the opportunity to share. I have a brief presentation I'd like to share with you all about what Archway is and how our structure works to bring campus resources to Thompson McDuffie. I don't have a clicker. Would y'all mind if I stood next to the computer and tabbed? Okay. I can project. Good morning. I'm Sarah Adams. I'm serving as your Archway professional from the Archway partnership at the University of Georgia. Just a quick highlight of what we do. We connect communities with higher education resources to address locally identified community and economic development issues, and that locally identified is the most important part of that description because it drives everything that we do. We don't ever want to come into a community and start sharing what we think people should do. I'm led by a local executive committee, that identify what they want me to work on through a series of priorities, and I'll share those with you in just a minute. So again, I do community-based service. It's all right here in Thompson McDuffie. A really neat part about our partnership is we're able to bring students directly from campus into communities to put their expertise to use. So what they're learning in textbooks, they get to turn around and apply in each of our communities. Most of our students are graduate students working on graduate degrees, master's and doctorate students, but we occasionally have some exceptionally hardworking undergrad students that work with us. We also bring faculty doing different kinds of research, and I've got an example in our presentation here shortly, but it helps faculty expedite their research or speed up the process by having a University of Georgia relationship already in the community, and that research can quickly benefit the community depending on what the topic is. I wanted just to share this graphic with you quickly. This is a graphic of where we are located specifically in the state. For Archway professionals, there are different branches of our division now, but these red counties are specifically for a community that has someone like me embedded in the community, full-time faculty professional. And the 9 counties that we have that are active have someone in them right now. You'll notice we also have some gray communities, and those are our counties where we've done some work with leaders and stakeholders, and they've decided they work fluidly enough now that they don't want to continue the partnership, but they always have an open door to campus resources should they want them. So a little bit of how we work. Think of me as that little person in red. It's my job to be at the center of discussion for my local executive committee. Again, those are local folks that tell me what they want to work on in Thompson McDuffie. After I hear from my executive committee, my job is to go out into the community to meet people, and those the figures in gray are like our issue work groups. And what an issue work group is essentially a group of folks that focuses on any of these 4 topics in particular for Thompson McDuffie. So you'll see here I've been charged with looking at community development, leadership, workforce and education, and health and wellness. And the reason it's important to have an Archway professional here is you've got your usual suspects that can get together and talk about any of those topics. So for example, health and wellness might be your healthcare providers, your local health department, your hospital, your private providers. But the unusual suspects might be school system, law enforcement, anybody else in the community that interacts with health and wellness issues also has something to bring to the table. And so I listen carefully to different people in the community on their perspective for health and wellness. And then we come up with a strategic plan for how to address some of the top issues that people are seeing right here on the ground. And that becomes a work plan, and that's how projects are developed. And I'm going to show you some examples of projects. Am I going too slow, too fast?
Perfect.
Doing good? Okay. So sometimes, and this is not my forte, I'm not a big data person. That seems very dry to me, but there are some folks out there that love data, love reports, and they're valuable, of course, because they help inform our decisions. So Thompson McDuffie, like many other communities across the state and the nation, we're seeing a decline in workforce after the pandemic. So we did a workforce study with the Carl Vinson Institute of Government. That's one of our partner organizations in public service. And they started taking a look at some of the workforce trends so that our workforce and education issue work group could allow that data to guide discussion. So just one of the things we provide is data. She told me she'd kill me if I did this, but I'm going to do it anyway. Allison Edie back there is our local fax agent with UGA Extension. And I'm going to brag on Allison because she won't do it herself. Many of you have already heard about vaping, what it is, how it affects students, especially young people, children. If you're not familiar with vaping, it's essentially smoking but with water. And what's in that water is nicotine and other addictive substances. Sometimes the cartridges they put in a vaping unit can contain very dangerous drugs such as fentanyl and other addictive chemicals. Now, fentanyl by itself is not necessarily a dangerous drug when it's in the hands of a qualified surgeon performing a surgical procedure in a hospital, but it is absolutely not a street-safe drug. So some of our leadership at the school system reached out and said, we've noticed an uptick in behavior. This is not just for Thompson McDuffie students, but students across the nation. And they said, we want to get ahead of some of these dangers for our students. Is there any information that you have? Well, we've been hearing about some of this in our Archway community. So I said, you know, I don't specifically have any curriculum to support, but let me call our extension partners. Allison and her team also did not have curriculum available, but they chased it down. They went to the state level extension, who is currently developing a curriculum to roll out to other communities, and they said, we want to expedite this. We're seeing this in students. They need to hear about the dangers this year because we are literally saving lives. So Allison and her colleague Lauren Dubberly, who you see there at a student assembly for middle school students, is doing a skit with some of the different classes. And they use CDC data, so it was evidence-based data to explain what vaping is, how it affects your lungs, how it affects your body, and then the risks associated with vaping behavior. So I do want to brag that Thompson McDuffie was the first community in the state of Georgia to receive the new state-level anti-vaping curriculum. So those partnerships are incredibly valuable to us. I'm going to go through these a little quicker. These are just some beautiful examples of some visual resources we can bring to our community. We have access to students for all the different colleges on the UGA campus. This particular student is with the College of Environment and Design. She's a landscaping major. And Trevor Welcher from the Parks and Rec Department asked me to come out and take a look at the roundabout. He wanted to beautify that space. It's a center of activity for a lot of community sporting events, and he wanted to beautify the signage. Well, when the student got there, she said, you know, there's a lot of potential to add value to this project. Do you mind if I take liberty and do some more planning? And Trevor said, go for it. So that roundabout up there, which if you're not close, you may not see, that was item number 1. So she revamped the signage so it would be simple and easy for the county to maintain with the plantings that were drought resistant and hardy plants. She also recommended that roundabout be expanded because it didn't meet current policy for emergency vehicle transport. And as you can imagine with sporting events, it would be important to have a roundabout that qualified for emergency vehicle turnaround points. She expanded or recommended the expanding of those parking lots there, and then she went way in depth with this project. I don't have other pictures for this presentation. I just wanted to tease you a little bit with this information, but she designed some pickleball courts there on section number 2, that big square in the top right. She did some renderings and designs for what an open air pickleball court may look like and what a closed pickleball court could look like as an income generator for the community. She designed and emphasized a walking trail going around that area. She added some shade elements for spectators, and then she added some value for a potential putt-putt course or driving range over there on the left-hand side. You see that little rectangle near concessions. So again, just a big picture example of what some of our students can bring to the community, and they're really excited to stretch their brains and put their talents where they're needed. Another really fun project, this was a different student with environment and design. Before, I think we had those 3 medians that are on Main Street in front of the Brickyard, where it's just grass plantings right now. There was a goal to beautify some of those medians, and the student came in and she said, all right, we're gonna have to meet DOT requirements. So she's looking up state policy, she's looking up practical solutions for these medians. By DOT standards, you can't have lighting, so no electricity can come out to a median. You also can't have irrigation installed. So these plants, by common sense, would need to be drought resistant. They would need to be wind resistant because you're going to have traffic going by. And she also intentionally put in some color for every season of the year. So spring, summer, fall, winter, you're going to have color. And she put together a little palette there to make it easy for folks that are going to be putting in the plants to see what she had designed. She also added different colors and textures. So again, this is its whole presentation by itself. I'm just giving you a quick picture so you get the general idea. And then she made some renderings so you can see what those plantings would actually look like once they happen. Reverend Favors, I want to thank you particularly. This may look familiar to you. We have a partnership, part of that health and wellness issue work group involves the Care Center with the University of Georgia, and that's Center for Alzheimer's Research and Education. And we have a great partnership with them. Our big event for May last year was a dementia health fair at the church. And so we do a lot of education on caregiver well-being, survivor burnout. We do some education with them for what is normal aging and brain health and what is Alzheimer's or dementia risk behavior. When should you go see a doctor? What questions should you ask? What sorts of things might you need to plan in the future if your family's facing this issue? So again, just one example of another resource from our College of Public Health. We help local students. I don't want to bring in a UGA resource if the resource already exists here in the community. This is an example of one of our student partnerships with the school, Miss Rakaya Youngblood. If you do not know her, she is a real treat to know. She is a brilliant introvert. It took me a while to get to know her, get her to come out of her shell a little bit. She is a mastermind with social media, and she helped the MAP on Main, which is a local artist cooperation with a mostly volunteer board, learn how to have a stronger online presence so they could boost sales and make a bigger community impact. Rakaya wants to go to Georgia Tech to become a biomedical engineer. Now, I don't fault her for her school choice, but we did want to give her some real community connections, foster those relationships, and give her some practice with the business side of things. So very, very proud of that new partnership. We did some scholarship, and I'll quickly go through this now. I know I'm talking quite a bit. We did a community needs assessment. We were approached by the MANA board with some potential funding to expand their services.
Well, they want to continue serving the community, but they didn't want to just assume they knew what people needed. So they asked us to actually find out. We hosted a series of 6 focus groups last year, and we took the information we learned and we hosted a community design day. That actually happened last week. And we talked about what folks saw as some of the biggest unmet needs in the community. And some of those needs would not surprise anybody here, but they were large capacity building needs such as generational poverty, mental health issues, etc. So these are big conversations that are better handled with some data to back up what the group may talk about. And how do we strategize moving forward with the resources that are here versus the resources that are needed, and how might MANA be able to plug in to support those resources? So again, research from the School of Social Work, that's Dr. Christina in the middle there, who helped to lead that project. Some really neat projects. I won't pretend to be smart enough to explain what they've done. We had some engineering students come down. This was late last year. We had a team of engineering students that took a look at the current animal shelter and take a look at how many kennels there were versus how many kennels may be needed to address some of the stray animal issue in the community. They took a field trip up to Burke County where they just opened a brand new animal shelter. They took some interviews that they had with the director and some of his staff to ask, what do you like most about your facility? What would you change if you had to start over again? What are some things that should be included in a new facility if Moultrie were to build one? And this group went beyond just a floor plan. I was expecting a blueprint that we might take to construction if the budget was there in the county, but they went beyond that. They looked at soil erosion, they looked at wastewater treatment, they looked at stormwater drainage. They did everything for the entire service area at no additional cost to the county. So those plans are there should they just have that as a priority in the future. Same thing, different engineering team came to Deering to look at a wastewater treatment facility. The treatment facility existing now is in its 22nd year of its 20-year lifespan. So there was an urgent need to look at, okay, how do we address a growing population? How do we safely and effectively manage this wastewater treatment? And what do professors and students recommend from an engineering standpoint? So the students came, they worked for a full year on this project. And some of our bigger dollar savings to communities are these engineering projects. They range anywhere from tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars that the community does not have to pay for graphics and recommendations. And we've had many, many of these, but that's just one example. I'll kind of fly through this one. It's another one of our brilliant college environment and design students. Mayor of Deering wanted to look at an outdoor structure to host our farmers markets. This is a weekly occurrence during the summer months, but there's opportunity there to do some community events for the rest of the year. Right now, people line up in the grass, and so when it rains, they're at the mercy of the weather. But this would provide a structure that would be safe and effective. We just had another engineering team take a second phase look at this project for electricity hookup, water hookup, restrooms, etc., and provide all the specs that are needed and an estimated budget that would be needed if the community wanted to implement something like that. And again, that's at no additional cost to the community. This was student resources. Same thing for a potential multi-purpose walking trail. Sometimes when you have a big idea in your head, you just don't know if it's going to be feasible or not. Whether or not you want to do that idea or not, this is beneficial to have students come into the community, take pictures, do some research, give you an estimated budget. And the idea was to connect a walking trail from the center of Deering, where that farmer's market would be installed, and go all the way to Harlem to boost economic development and health and wellness for both communities. The students added that you could boost sales in each community by adding kiosks and community events along the walking trail. Hey, when you get to this point in Harlem, there's this event going on. If you're going this way to Deering, you have this community event going on, and stop here for lunch, and here's the specials. So they just had a couple of new ideas that would enhance that economic development. Last but not least, as part of our economic development, again, this was a new partnership with the Tourism and Hospitality Department at UGA. We worked with 2 professors and 11 graduate students on the Blind Willie McTell Festival. There was a concern that we had the most successful festival that we've had in McDuffie, but it wasn't necessarily reflecting in revenue because the ticket prices haven't changed despite pandemic and despite inflation. So we had a group of professors look and again, just provide some data on what other communities are doing with prices and how to save money, but how to boost revenue, to recommend that to the tourism board. And then we also had what's called a visitor intercept study. I had no idea what that meant. But that means that you look at what outsiders coming to Thompson and McDuffie think about the community. How was their experience versus how was your expectations? What are we doing well? What are we not doing well? What are some opportunities to improve folks' perspective of the community so that we can get more tourism dollars? So we just had that presentation last week. Again, a great partnership, and they're keeping that survey open through the rest of this year, so we can not only get master's data from the Master's Week, but we can collect data through summer visitors as well. So that'll continue. Return on investment just for last year was $1.2 million. We completed 21 projects, worked with 11 faculty and 41 students. And there's my contact info. Thank you all for the opportunity. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for Sarah? Thank you, Sarah, and thank you for what y'all do in our community.
Thank
For
y'all.
those listening this morning or those in attendance, Sarah is at, her office is located in the depot.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to an announcement about the McDuffie County Animal Services Vaccine Clinic. Catherine, would you like to say anything about that?
Everything should be good to go. Vets on staff, ready to go. I think Dr. Marley Rogers is actually going to help with that. So she will be on hand to help, and everything should be good.
That's May 31st. That's May 31st. Where at?
At the old Thompson High School across from Brickyard in that parking lot /
Beside where we have
Yeah.
elections. Thank you, Catherine. We'll move on to our appointments and reappointments. The first being the consideration to appoint Lori Ducey as our interim county clerk. Is there a motion to approve? Motion made by Commissioner Holloman, seconded by Vice Chairman Wilson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We have no old business, so we'll move right into our new business. The first being consideration to approve ACA report for April 2025. Our tax commissioner is here today to give that report.
I removed $2,747.60 from the property tax digest, and I removed $48.90 from the mobile home digest. These are all from appeals being completed with the tax assessor's office.
Thank you, Stacy. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Vice Chairman Wilson,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Favors. All in favor? Any opposed? All right. Number 6, consideration to approve low bid for animal shelter grant and improvements. We discussed this at our work session Monday night. The decision was to bring forth the low bid. Is there a motion to approve that?
I'll move.
Motion made by Commissioner Holloman,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Favors. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Number 7, consideration to approve bid for flooring improvements for Senior Citizen Center. The recommendation Monday night was to approve the local low bid. Is there anything to add or any questions on that?
So move for approval.
Motion made by Commissioner Favors, seconded by Commissioner Holloman. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Number 8, consideration to approve the UGA Extension Annual Financial Agreement. We discussed this also Monday night at our work session. This is for the July 1st, 2025 through June 30th, 2026 fiscal year. Is there a motion to approve this contract? Or budget?
Mr. Chairman, I move for approval.
Vice Chairman Wilson,
Second.
second by Commissioner Favors. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Number 9, consideration to approve purchase of SCBA's for Station 8 pumpers. We discussed this again at our work session. David, is there anything you want to add on that for the public that might not have been there the other night? This was coming out of contingency.
We'll come out of our contingency funds for our fire budget. This would essentially, it brings, since we've taken on the new Deering station, it brings those cylinders compliant with our existing system countywide. So that's the reason for it.
With that being said, is there a motion to approve the purchase?
So move.
Motion made by Commissioner Favors. Seconded by Commissioner Holloman. All in favor? Any opposed? Number 10 is the consideration to approve the 2024 year-end budget amendments. Pam went over those the other night in the packet. Pam, do you want to add anything for those who might not have been at the work session? A quick review.
Quick review, the general fund needed budget amendments for $216,195. There were offsetting revenues. Also, there were some storm expenses in there for $744,740. There were a couple amendments made for purchases of equipment for the landfill along with the sheriff's office. There were a few amendments for some additional money we had for roads of $1,801,183, and a couple amendments for the fire and EMS system.
Thank you, Pam. Is there a motion to approve the 20? Reinvest it into that fund that grows at the interest rate higher. Any money taken from that fund will require a board vote, just like on our reserve. All right, with that being said, is there a motion to approve awarding the bid to Regions, the low bidder?
I'll make a motion to approve. Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Holloman, seconded by Vice Chairman Wilson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Number 13 is the consideration to approve the resolution for the issuance of the McDuffie County General Obligation TAN Series 2025 in the amount of $9.8 million, and to authorize the chairman to execute all required closing documents. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Vice Chairman Wilson, seconded by
Second.
Commissioner Favors. All in favor? Any opposed?
You said we had to pay it all when it comes due regardless, is that right?
Yes, sir.
We need to have prayer meetings for FEMA. Yeah.
I do that every morning. And that's a good question again, David. So this has to be paid by the end of the year,
Correct.
the calendar year. So the idea would be that we pay all the funds back and then be issued another TAN for next year if we're not fully reimbursed by that time. Correct?
That's an option. I'm hoping
That we'll be fully
we're
reimbursed.
fully reimbursed and we're done. So,
And that first one's supposed to come in when?
now I would, if you keep getting interest rates like this and we have interest rates on our returns, I would say we start doing tens every year. So,
To gain a whole point in interest.
When are we expecting that first, reimbursement?
30 more days maybe?
We're hopeful, maybe July. It keeps moving. It has different levels as we move through. It's moving, and we keep checking.
And that's gonna be a total of 3.9?
Around 3.9.
All right, Pam also provided, an item for a budget amendment regarding, 2 grants, I believe, Pam.
In your previous meeting, you accepted the funds from the Regional Commission for a recreation grant for $10,000. Before you today is just a budget for those funds that allows us to expend the funds. 5,000 of it would go towards travel activities for the senior citizens, and the other 5,000 would be for general supplies.
And that's the Regional Commission grant that you said we approved earlier this year.
I think it was last meeting.
Yes, ma'am. Is there a motion to approve this budget amendment?
So moved.
Commissioner Favors,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Holloman. All in favor? Any opposed? Lastly, we have consideration to purchase 2 transit vans. Pam?
The transit program, periodically, replaces their vans. Normally, I think it's around every 2 years. The vans have been on back order. So normally when we replace those vans, the county has the opportunity to purchase those vans. So we have the opportunity, instead of turning those in, to purchase each one of those for $19,600. There was one request for one at the Senior Citizen Center. We actually put it in the budget for $15,000. The vans have increased in price. There was additional needs for vans. I believe David said for the prisoners.
Yeah, we'll probably need to replace one of our prison
Prison
buses. But the recommendation would be to go ahead and purchase both. Keep one kind of as a pool vehicle to use as necessary for recreation, senior center, other programs. And then at the point in time when our the transit bus that's currently being used or was purchased for our prison crews gets to the point where it's non-serviceable, we'll just replace it with one of these vans.
So staff's recommendation is to approve the purchase of the transit vans while the opportunity has presented itself. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Commissioner Favors,
Something important.
second by Vice Chairman Wilson.
How many, what's the total number of men we have these?
What's the total number of county that we can,
How many we have?
County
We got
owns.
5 already.
How many do we have?
how many do we own?
How many do we have over at Transit Round? We own,
I believe it's six.
Six,
Is it
and we
six,
have-
Stephanie?
It's 6, but it's 2. We replaced 2, we got 2 new vans, last year. And 2 is holding. You really need an extra for the seniors because they only carry 10. When we take them bowling, we only can have 10 people signing up and we got 1 mass that, so it would be great to have another one for the senior center to have.
But 5 are used for transit every day.
Yes.
5 are tied up with the transit
When
system.
we take the seniors, we can't use the transit van.
That are in rotation.
Right.
So the motion was made by Commissioner Favors, seconded by Vice Chairman Wilson. All in favor? Any opposed? All right, at this time, we will close our regular meeting, and I'll ask for a motion to move into executive session for a personnel matter. Motion made by Vice Chairman Wilson, seconded by Commissioner Holloman. All in favor?